Lovies, it's David McGillivray here, and in case you're new to it, this is Little Did You Know. It's a chat show in which I talk to people I find interesting. I hope you agree. How about that building behind me? Look at that. We love it. We're in Berkeley Square in London's Mayfair. How about that? And sitting next to me is somebody who calls himself a Hindude. He's also a stand-up chameleon. Yes, he's an impersonator, an impressionist. And in the second half of the show, I'm going to talk about the whole business of copying someone else's voice. How about that? Will you please say hello to the very wonderful Anil Desai.
Hi.
Oh, nice to see you again.
Great to see you. I think it's been a year.
It's been a year, and the last time we met was when you were my guest on a video sharing platform called Likey. Now, I've brought this up before. It was a daily live chat show. And so people were texting us from all over the world. Most of the messages were pretty dull, you know, are you on Instagram? But I have to tell you, Anil Desai was my most popular guest on Likey. It's
really?
True.
Wow.
It's true, because...
And you did something like 60 shows or something?
I think we only did about
30
of those before I was banned.
Amazing. Does it still exist as a thing?
Likey does.
Right.
And in theory, I could go back onto Likey now because I was banned for a year. And that year is up. But in all honesty, I'm not going back.
Right.
Why would I?
Yeah.
But as I was saying, everyone was texting like mad. They loved your impressions. And then they started suggesting voices that you could do. Now, my recollection is that every voice they suggested you were able to do. Now, was that chance, or can you do everybody in the world?
No, I can't do everybody in the world. I can only do people I like. Well, and there's then a few others, but I don't like promoting people I don't like. But I think they did request or suggest some famous people that I've never done, and I just gave them a go, tried them out. And I think they landed, so...
They were very impressed.
Yeah.
We're going to hear some more of those voices later, Anil.
Yeah.
Your parents came to the UK from Gujarat, so you're...
Gujarati.
Gujarati?
Yeah.
So you're first generation British. What did your parents do when they arrived here?
Well, my dad arrived first in '63, and he studied business and economics, and for a couple of years. He went up to Manchester, studied there, fell in love with rock and roll music. There was a club called the Twisted Wheel. I don't know if you remember it.
It's very famous.
Yeah, and it's not there anymore, but you can find documentaries and things on YouTube about it, and there's even a Twisted Wheel playlist on Spotify that someone made, which I found, which I thought was amazing. And my dad became friends with the DJ, and he'd hang out there, and guys like Rod Stewart, Julie Driscoll, the Animals, and people like that would perform there, doing their live gigs when back in the early '60s. And my dad would hang out with all these people, and it was just amazing hearing these stories. But when he came back to London, he got a job as a bus conductor, and then my mum came over. They got married, arranged marriage through a little photograph like they did in the old days. And I suppose maybe in the 21st century, because you all seem to be doing that on social media and Twitter and what's it called, Tinder, and they look at photos and goes, oh, I'll go out with that person. Yes. I've just seen a photo. I've never heard what they sound like, or don't know what they smell like, or their energy feels like, what their aura's like. I've no idea. And you'll go and meet some random person from a picture.
This could be a comedy routine, Anil. Tell me, what did your parents do? They ran a restaurant, didn't they?
Right. So as my dad was a bus conductor, he and my mum would make little Indian snacks like sort of Bombay mix and spicy cashew nuts and peanuts and stuff, and then bag them, and he'd sell them on his bus route, because back in the day the bus conductor was in charge of the bus, not the driver. The bus conductor, when you dig the ding ding on the bell, then the driver knew it was time to leave the bus stop. And so my dad would get off the bus once all the passengers were on, go into one of the local shops, sell them these little bags of things, and or give them to them. And it said, if you sell them and you want more, I'll bring them. If you don't, I'll take them back. And on his bus route, he'd do that all the way around West London from sort of Willesden to Ladbroke Grove or something, and or Notting Hill, and then did really well, and they made enough money to get the takeout, and then the takeout did well enough to become a restaurant, and they had the restaurant for 33 years.
And the food was delicious because I tried it. Yes. Now, Anil, were you the type of boy who did impressions of the teachers when you were at school?
Yeah. I first did my impressions watching things like The Muppet Show and cartoons, and just kind of picked. Also, as a family-run restaurant, I had to work in the restaurant, and so when I was a kid waiting tables,
how young?
Probably about 11,
really?
12. Just running out of the kitchen to take some food to the table and run back into the kitchen because I was shy. But I started the work. When you have a restaurant business, the doors open to the whole world, and people from all walks of life will come in, and there were some characters obviously, and I'd go back to the kitchen and go, Mom, that man at table 2 wants some samosas and some chef puri, and she goes, all right, but don't say that to me when you give him his food. And I'd go back to him and go, here's your samosas. And I remember just being like in awe of all these different voices, and these they were people, but they just had character and voices, and I just used to mimic them a lot, and that kind of became my thing.
Can you remember the first celebrity impersonation you ever did?
I'm gonna say Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, like Kermit the Frog, so like, because I was a child watching Sesame Street and he was on that, and there's a lot of
and then all the other characters would arrive, and then you started kind of going, oh, can I do Oscar the Grouch or Big Bird or whatever, and you go with what you can.
Could you do the whole of Sesame Street by the time you
I never attempted that. That's not a bad idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
An idea for another show.
Yeah.
Are you, Anil, as far as you know, the only Asian impressionist in the UK?
As far as I know, I am. And worldwide,
yes.
I have played around the world, but I've bumped into some guys, Asian guys, that can do a few, but I don't know, but they don't really. That's not really their thing, and it's kind of this sort of fun thing they do as sort of like in the office or whatever. But I think I'm the only one that I know that does what I do. I'm going to say that. I'm going to own that.
As far as I know, you are.
There you go.
Look at this building. Look. Do you know what it is? Because we're intrigued. Haven't they done a lovely job? If you know what it is, will you let us know?
And can you see the new doorman? There was a previous doorman who was wearing a pink. Really, but they've got a new one.
Yes.
Now, and,
look.
There is something going on in there that we're going to find out after this podcast.
We need to know. Anil, you've been on a stage and screen for 30 years or thereabouts.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we first met when you were in Tintin in Watford. Am I remembering
we met just
this?
before that, but that was a year, 2007.
And then an early TV appearance was in Goodness Gracious Me. Now this was
back in 98.
It was 98.
Yeah.
Well remembered. Now this was the UK's first Asian comedy sketch show. What was it like in those days, Anil? Did it feel groundbreaking?
Yeah, there was definitely something new happening. I was part of the group that really knocked that door down for my culture of people in the industry, who weren't newsreaders or kind of thing. Unfortunately, 30 years later, we still have more newsreaders than comedians on TV that are from my lineage of culture.
Your theory, why is that?
The writers and the producers don't exist. If you write it, then it can get made, but you have to write it, and most of the writers weren't and haven't been writing TV in a way that when you walk out of your front door, especially in London, what you see is not what you get on television. And it's taken a long time. Even EastEnders used to do a thing of going, well, we've got one ethnic family,
yes.
and if another one was to move in, then they'd have to write the other one out. You couldn't have two ethnic families living in the same area. In London, like that ever happens. Where's that special magical place, I wonder? Doesn't exist, right? But now they've got a couple of ethnic families. They've had to mix it up. Here's an interesting thing about soaps. Ramsay Street, Neighbours. We grew up watching that in my school days, my high school days, and it was like Australia was selling this thing: Neighbours, Home and Away, Sunshine, Relax, Beaches, this and that. And then a few years back, an Asian family, South Indian family, was moved into Ramsay Street, and about 3 months later, they were kicked out of Ramsay Street. And I thought, when I was over there, and they were telling me, and I was like, "Where?" I said, "What? How's that?" And I said, "Was it the Australians?" They went, "No, you'd think so because of their, the bad racist reputation they have, but it was actually the English audiences who watched it over here and were like, no, we're not buying this. This is not Australia. This is not our understanding of Australia." And they complained so much that the studio got rid of the Asian family.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Anil, it's time for you to write some stuff yourself.
I am.
Pleased to hear it.
And I've met some other Indian writers who are, and it's not about writing Indian stuff. It's just about writing a story.
Of course.
Why can't I play the lead cop in a cop movie? Why can't I be the romantic lead in a movie? Of course they can, but they don't write it that way, and they go, well, who's going to watch that? And you go, well, someone made it with someone before they were famous. People watched it. And also, if you corner that Indian market, I tell you, the Indians are very loyal and supportive, and there's 1 billion of them. And
yes.
So you're going to get 1/8 of the world viewing whatever program you put an Indian person in.
It just takes one adventurous person to try this out. Anil, when did it come to you to take some of your impersonations into the comedy clubs?
Well, when the acting work was slowed down, I guess, because as an actor, I left school, started acting, worked as an actor, and then when in between acting work, I always did temp work and stuff, and I got tired of doing temp work in the real world. It wasn't for me. That's why I chose to be an actor. And then I thought I need to be able to get on stage every night and still make a living. And I knew that comedy was going to be the thing, because I loved comedy before I even got into acting. And it was just the thing I feared most. But I did it, and the way I did it was using impressions, because I didn't have to be me on stage. I could be all these other people, which allowed me to do that. But then eventually I had to take all those masks off and go, I'm Anil Desai, I'm a comedian, and join a meeting.
How scary was it when you first set foot on stage?
As a comedian?
In a comedy club, because they're scary places.
It was the scariest thing. I actually went to the gig, and they went, "Great, you're here." And I said, "Yeah, I've just come to say that I can't go through with this." Because I tried to phone them, but they were not in the office. They were at the club,
really? And
no one was answering. And I actually got the train to the club, and I said, "I am here to say I cannot go on."
Oh wow!
And I was absolutely petrified. Absolutely.
So they said, no, you're going on.
They said, well, you're here, you might as well go on. I went, no, it's cool. I don't need to go through with this. And they went, just, you're here. And it was weird, because I'd already been on stage as an actor. I'd already done sketch comedy for a few years.
Isn't it?
But I was, for the first time, going out there and saying, hi, I'm Anil Desai, and this is what I think is funny, to 100 people.
What was it like once you were on stage?
Electric.
Ah, good.
It was amazing. I was on there for 7 or 8 minutes straight, and it was videoed, and I remember showing it to some of the veteran comedians that we have here in the UK, and they said, this is your first gig? And I was like, yeah. They went, well, it's terrible. We can't hear any of the jokes through the laughter.
Oh. How wonderful. Tell me, Anil, what is 52 impressions in 5 minutes?
That was, I watched comedians who had a signature closing thing they do, like either a song or a specific joke or routine. And I used to watch comics again and again, and I go, that's their trademark thing, that's their signature thing, and I didn't have one. And I thought, I want to have one. And so I thought, well, how about if I just do a rapid quick fire impressions thing? And I wrote them all out, and then I stuck them to a deck of cards, which was sitting on the desk as I was writing out all my impressions. And I had about 75, but I took my best 52, stuck them on the cards, and I said, I'm going to try and do these within 5 minutes of a 20-minute set of my closing thing, and that'll take the roof off. And the first time I did it, I came in at 6.5 minutes, but I still got a standing ovation. And then I kept practiced more, and to kind of, set a record. And I did it in 4 minutes and 22 seconds was the fastest I did it in eventually, and that did take the roof off.
Now my memory...
And it went on video, it went on YouTube for the first time. It was the first thing I've had on YouTube, and people saw that, and then the world started calling me.
I was going to say, yes, it was on YouTube. I don't think it is anymore. But...
There is a version of it, but it wasn't that original version. There's a later version that's on there.
Okay, but it went... Is the word viral?
It did. it hit something like 150,000 views within 5 days or something. So it was on for a few months, and then the company that produced it and lots of other stuff had shut down, and so all of their videos came down, and I was just like, but you could have just left it on and sent it to me.
But because of this, well, it led to your international career, as you say. So you were going off around the world and on cruises to some of the world's most glamorous hotspots.
Yeah,
I was so envious.
Well, my dream was to one day be so kind of in with the cruise ships and really solid with as a performer with them, that I could take friends like yourself on the ship, and I thought, well, you're at that age where you'd like a cruise ship, you want to relax and stuff and see sunsets in the South Pacific and whatnot. And it was I did 2012 till before Weird World began in 2020.
Indeed.
I got back. So I did about 7 solid years.
Have you ever counted the number of countries you've been to?
I think it's about 45.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I'd say about 38 were in the 10 years that I did stand-up. Yeah, that I started doing stand-up.
Can we talk about your favourite country?
Wow. Rather than country, there's places.
Yes, go on.
Yeah. New York, Amsterdam, so many, New Zealand. Australia. There's a lot of my life in that 10 years. I think because I went to Australia every year.
Yes.
Like a boomerang. I kept going back, and I think in total in 10 years, between 2010 and 2020, I probably spent about 4 years in total there.
Well, how cool is this? Because we met in Australia. Because you were on tour.
I was doing the comedy festival, and you were doing with Julian,
with Julian Clary. So we
met up for a coffee there.
We did. Where did we meet?
We went in Melbourne. We went to Gloria. What was it called? Gloria, or Gloria's or something. It was. There was a chain of coffee places.
It's coming.
And then we went to it's not Carluccio's. It's Belluccio.
Their version of Carluccio's.
Yeah, well, but it's more coffee and dessert rather than pasta. But it's Belluccio's. But
you've got one over on me here, Anil, because
I
can't remember, but it was good.
Yeah, just about down by the town hall, and we had coffee and cakes. Or rum baba. Do we have rum baba?
We may well have done. And I liked Melbourne because that scene down by the river reminded me of London's South Bank.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And then if you cross that South Bank and go further down a couple of miles, you'll get to a beach which is in the city, which is St Kilda.
Isn't that wonderful?
And it's where the people up north of Melbourne go for a holiday.
I love it.
I'd
love to go back. Now, let me mention a TV game show you did, Anil. It's called The Imitation Game. Now, just remind me of the format of that one,
Well,
will
it
you?
was a panel show where impressionists on both teams, 2 teams of impressionists who have to kind of out-impression each other through a series of rounds. Yeah.
You're in episode 3.
I am, okay.
And I don't want you to look at the reviews, Anil, because people didn't like it awfully much because they said it looked
Too rehearsed.
You took the word out of my mouth. So you're owning up. I felt like
that on set. Well, it felt too safe, you know, and I think the fun that I have on stage and taking requests from audience members live is that it's unpredictable and there's a danger element and I don't know what's going to happen, and you go with it, and even if you fail, you gave it a go and it's still fun. Whereas when it's too safe, because it's television, they're like, well, we can't have bad TV on prime time, so they have to kind of put safety nets up.
It wasn't just our opinion. It alas wasn't recommissioned, and what do you know? It isn't even on ITV Hub. So. Wow. It's a lost show, but did you know this, Anil? There's one clip on YouTube, and it's your episode. So you can go on to YouTube, and you can see Anil in this show. It's called The Imitation Game. The Imitation Game. How lovely. Yeah. Anil, we're going to have to take a break.
Okay, great.
Because we're going to have a look at a trailer for a new Peccadillo release. This is brand new. It came out on June the 28th, and it's now on peccadillopod.com. It's called The Man with the Answers. Have a look at this and then join us again in a couple of minutes.
That feeling when you're in the air is incredible, until gravity pulls you down again.
I'm German. You don't look German. You don't look Greek. You have a car? No.
You know the game 20 questions. You put something in your mind and I have 20 questions to guess what it is.
Are you going to Germany? Maybe.
You need to start trusting the stranger in your car.
Who's that here?
It's none of your business. Why did I take you with me?
Because you like me.
I guess the world has become too complex for simple answers.
That was the Man with the Answers, and it puts me in mind of last week's film, Boy Meets Boy, except that, as you saw, this time, the protagonists are German and Greek. It's on peccadillopod.com now. And what's this? It's only £4.49 to rent. That sounds very cheap to me. This is David McGillivray. It's Little Did You Know. And look, it's my guest, Anil Desai, and we're in front of this wonderful building. What is it? It's in Berkeley Square in London's Mayfair. Anil,
yes.
Something tells me you've been a lifelong film fan.
Yes, certainly. 100%.
Yes.
Do you know the first film I ever saw?
Yes, please tell me.
In the cinema, I was 5 or 6, maybe. Bambi. It was a double bill. It was Bambi, and it was at the Kilburn State Cinema. And I don't know if you remember that, but it was a beautiful Art Deco style building with a staircase, a red carpet, and it was just so gorgeous going there in the 70s. And massive, the biggest screen I think I've ever seen to this day. Maybe because I was only that small, and the screen looked so huge. But we were there, and it was Bambi first, and then King Kong. 1933, Fay Ray.
What a double bill!
Yeah, tragedy in both. You know, at the start of Bambi, Bambi's mother gets shot. Right, sad. I was like, "Brr." And at the end of King Kong
he
gets
died.
And I came out of the movie saying to my aunt, "Are all movies like this?" Because I was heartbroken. The following year, my uncle took me to see Star Wars, and that blew my mind. And then I just wanted to go to space and on adventures. and I never wanted to work again.
Well, you
And-
had the pleasure of seeing that incredible double bill in what was the biggest cinema in the UK.
Was it?
At its peak,
Yeah.
3,000 seats.
Was it?
Not when you saw it, because
In the 70s?
Yeah, a lot of it had been made into something else.
Well, now it's a bingo hall.
No, now it's
Oh.
now it's a church. But they've kept all the original decor,
Yeah.
and the foyer was inspired by Buckingham Palace.
Right. It was beautiful.
And the exterior, of course, hence the name, was the Empire State Building in New York.
Yes, and it was and Kilburn, and we lived in Willesden, but Kilburn had the State,
Yes.
the Classic,
Yes,
and
the Grange.
the Grange. 3 cinemas
Yeah.
on 1 mile strip,
It's true.
and it was like what? And then there was, if you went further down, you get to Edgware Road ADC.
More.
There were cinemas, so many cinemas back then.
How do I know this? Because I used to live in Kilburn as well.
There you go.
Anil, how many impersonations can you do?
I stopped counting after 150 or something. Yeah.
And of course, they probably go in and out of the repertoire.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're all in there. Doing the impressions isn't so much about just doing the voice. For me, it's kind of becoming that person or character, even if they're animated. And I go, how do you do that? And it's kind of like, I don't know, through empathy and essence. And I kind of just conjure up, something happens in me in its organic way that I don't quite know or want to know. But then I transform into this thing, this being, this character. And it's a weird thing because I've never met any of these people. Well, I've met a few of them, but not even that doesn't make sense to be able to do them. But here's the thing. So when I've done them, they're in my bones. And that's only when I'll put them out in public is when I kind of feel that I've got them. Well, I never use a mirror or anything. People say, how do you know you've got it right? I say, because I feel them.
So it's not a
And-
question of you deciding on who you're going to do. These people find you.
You know what? I've never looked at it that way, and maybe that's what's been happening. There's some that I want to do and they won't let me, and then there's others that just go, gotcha, and I go, okay, all right, we're doing this now, are we?
So sometimes
yeah.
you think, I'd like to do an impression of you, but it doesn't work. Does that happen?
Yeah, well, something's not connected yet, but it's brewing. It's always brewing. But here's the thing: is that so when you say in and out of the repertoire, it's kind of like they're in me and they can pop out at any time. Sort of like
yes.
bread in a toaster when it pops out when it's ready. And but then it's just they're in me, and I think they just come and go, like people in our lives. So, but they're there, they're all around. During the lockdown, I spent a lot of time with them. I spent a lot of time
With your imaginary friends.
Well, you say imaginary, I could see them, and I could feel them. They were there.
Did you have conversations?
Oh hell yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm still here in this earth.
It was
because-
keeping you sane.
It was keeping me sane.
One of your impersonations was talking to another.
And I was talking to them, both. And here's the thing. People watching that would go, this man is insane. Yet, the irony being is that I was kept sane because I was having these very conversations with these people that I've been able to impersonate. And then kind of, and you know what it was, the thing about the sanity bit was I was able to get out what was in my head. And put it onto, Morgan Freeman or to David Attenborough, to Al Pacino, or whatever, and then they'd say something back, and you're going, yeah, but that's still you talking to yourself. Yeah, it is, but it's much more colourful when you've got it in a different accent.
You've
and
just
stuff like
mentioned
that.
2 names there, Anil.
Yeah.
Right now, could David Attenborough talk to Morgan Freeman?
Well, I suppose. I see the way he did that. Well, I suppose he could. I was wondering, once I move on, who's going to narrate my nature programs, and I thought, Morgan, you would be ideal. Well, now that would be a real honor, David, but I've already been narrating a lot of shows about space and penguins and space. Perhaps you want to find someone younger, because I'm also on my way out. Yes, I really didn't think about that, did I? Yeah.
During this awful time, Anil, I'm talking about lockdown, were you using that time to perfect new impressions as well?
No.
You were just with your old friends.
Yeah, some new ones came along, They knocked on the door and went, "You're not ready. Can't come in." But
On average, this is only an average, how long does it take before an impersonation, you
There's
can't
no-
answer
there's
this
no
question,
time.
before an impersonation
There's
is
no-
ready to go out in the world?
each one's different. Like, you know what? It's a million women giving birth. When's it arriving? You know, well, I don't know. The doctor said this and the nurse said that, and I'm feeling this and my whatever, right? But it's they just pop out when they're ready. And I was asked this by an old friend, and also a big guy in the comedy business, guy Paul Provenza. He asked me many years ago. He said, "Do you work on them, and do you can you get them out in a fixed time, or what, or do they just pop out when they're ready, like Gremlins?" And I went, "They just pop out when they're ready." He went, "You're like Zelig," and I was like, "What's Zelig?" And he went, "You've never seen Zelig?" And the first thing I did when I left him was went and got Zelig on DVD, and it's a Woody Allen film where he can become anyone, or is everyone.
It's now constantly referred to, other people are called Zelig if they keep turning up everywhere.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 Peter Sellers never went on an interview on TV as himself, did
No.
he? Until I think one time he did.
He hated it.
Yeah.
We don't want to get too heavy here, Anil, but Peter Sellers didn't like himself.
Yeah, there is that. There's elements of that.
Can you, relate to it?
Yeah, I could. I like myself probably more now than I did before, but yeah, this time, so this time, but you exercise those demons or those thoughts or those feelings about yourself through the work, and eventually, I mean, I don't know. For me, I feel like I've kind of made sense of things, so I don't loathe myself anymore in the way I used to. But then I was always an optimist as well. I thought, whatever's happening, there's a way out. I never thought therapists or anything like that.
If you went to a psychiatrist, Anil, what do you think he would say about you? What would his theory be? Why are you doing all these voices?
I think they'd say, "Why have you come to see me? You're fine.
Good.
You don't need me. Stop wasting your money and time. You have all the answers inside you. All you have to do is talk to your inner self, and don't care what other people think when you talk to yourself. Really don't. Just don't. It's like dancing. When you feel the need to dance, just dance. It's the freest thing to do in the world. It doesn't cost you anything, and who cares who's watching? You're here on this earth living your life and your time. You have a time limit. Do what you got to do.
Do you dance?
Do you dance? Yeah, I love it.
Good.
I mean, I did train in some dance when I was younger, but I'll dance on the tube on the way here. If I have the right song, man. I'm not a tap dancer, but I'll look like I can tap. Because it's so fun. It's just so much fun.
Do you look at the TV and think, this is now we're talking about? And do you think, oh yes, I think I'd like to do you? Is that how it works?
I'd like to, when I'm watching someone current.
You're watching the TV and you think, I'd like to impersonate that voice.
I don't get that so much these days. But I think because there's a lack of distinction. I think when I was younger and watching all of these some of these, they were new to me, actors and characters who've been around for some time, but they were all distinct. They're very distinct. And now, that guy in that show could be the same guy in that other show, and there's not a distinct thing. And
but
so
how
it's
can
harder.
this be? What's going on then?
Well, it's harder to find actors that are distinct, because I think maybe there was only a limited amount of distinctions one could find, and they've all been consumed.
You're saying that we're losing good characters.
Well, there's some edge, some rarity, some unique thing that makes them just kind of their voice or whatever. And so I'm trying to think of who in recent years.
Well, I know
a guy named Patton Oswalt.
You do Harry Hill.
Harry Hill, yeah. Yeah, I've done Harry Hill.
Come on, just briefly.
Yeah, I haven't done him for a while.
Caught you out there.
You did catch me out.
He does do a very good Harry Hill.
Sometimes.
Criteria now.
Yeah.
That's important because you go around the world. So is it true that all your impersonations have to be recognizable?
Well,
You can't do Harry Hill in Vanuatu.
no, you can't. Unless you put him in context and say, we have this guy who does this show where he, reviews TV of the week or whatever, and he's got an egghead and he's got his glasses and he's a bit goofy and whatnot. But then by the time you've done the context, it's so much of a setup. Who cares, right? So it's not.
So most of your impersonations are
internationally well known. Yeah,
they're Hollywood stars.
Well, because I'm a big movie fan, so I was more influenced and excited by and attracted to the Hollywood actors and film actors more than any TV stuff. But and I think that's part of it is that I had to be attracted to that person in some way.
Are you working on anyone right now?
I've had some requests from friends to work on Anthony Hopkins.
Good idea.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Also a good idea.
What was the other one someone mentioned? I can't remember right now.
Well, Anil, I'll tell you.
Kevin Hart or someone like that.
Why not?
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, Anil. I want to hear a lot more of these impersonations, but there's no time here, I'm afraid.
Oh well.
But can we continue this for the benefit of Patreon subscribers? Can you stick around, Anil?
Sure.
Good. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll know that you can go there after the show. You'll find us waiting for you. But if you're not, here's the link. You can become one of us. Anil, before we wrap this up on Little Did You Know, I want to talk about some of the stuff you've been doing recently.
Right.
I've been researching you see.
Uh-huh.
There's been a few films. This is the one I want to know a lot about.
Right.
It's called La Jewel, and its
Right.
strapline is that it took 15 years to complete.
Yeah. We made it on £1,500 back in 1996.
Why
Yeah.
did it take 15 years?
Well, yeah, considering that we shot it in 6 days, and then we started pre-production for a couple of months, and then the director producer, who was also editing, had an accident and ended up in a coma.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then he came out of the coma, and then and he lived here, but he was from Australia, so he moved back to Australia so he could recover and heal. And
it was finally finished.
and then his brother-in-law, who was Japanese, was one of the best sound engineers in Japan, in Tokyo, and he said, look, I'll do all the because the time that was taking was the sound editing, because we shot on Super 8.
I've just dropped my notes.
And because we shot on Super 8, syncing sound, as you know, is very difficult. But he did the sound for us, and he did it in his own time, and he was working around other projects and stuff. So
Finally, it was finished.
and we saw it in the cinema.
Oh, phew.
Yeah.
What a relief.
Yeah.
Tell me about this one, Anil. Once Upon a Time in York Street. Shot during lockdown.
That's right. Yeah. So that's about a production casting studio, and so there's lots of actors playing themselves, like myself. Hello, Fly. And there's a lot of improvisation in the film, that we just made that's on Amazon Prime. You can watch that.
Good.
And it's a lot of fun. It's very funny.
And here's one even more recent. It's called Sensation.
Yeah, I shot that just before lockdown. That's a sci-fi thriller that we shot in London and in the countryside in England, and that went out on Prime. I don't know if it's still on Prime. I think they got a distribution deal, so try and find it. But it's okay. It was a lot of fun to make, for me anyway. I got to do my own stunts, jump off a London tour bus and stuff like that, and get chased around a lot. But yeah, so
How wonderful.
Yeah.
And how about this one? It's called Lair, Lair.
right.
It's part of Fright Fest. It's part of the online Fright Fest. I've just spent the last weekend at Fright Fest
Right.
here in London.
Yay.
What is Lair?
So Lair is a feature horror film and my segment in it is a short film that is watched by characters in that film. So so the short film I'm in is actually released as a separate thing as well, but it's also part of Lair, and it's called the Bob De Niro Fan Club, and it's a sort of Martin Scorsese influenced 1970s short gangster film in New York, and yeah.
Right.
So
we'll watch
with
out
the big
for that.
muscle cars and stuff.
And
you can
have
see that on
you-
YouTube.
And
I think it's on my YouTube channel.
how nice.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about your YouTube channel in just a moment. And have you been to Eastern Europe recently?
Yes, I was in. I went to Hungary, Budapest. I went to Poland, Warsaw. Where else? Yeah, those two places in this year, actually. Luckily,
Were you shooting something?
I was shooting a new 4-part mini drama called Teacher for Channel 5, which is on this summer, autumn. Yeah, it's on soon, I think.
Wonderful.
And-
That title again.
Teacher,
Thank you.
and that's a lot of. That's going to be great. That's a great thriller.
And
Yeah.
where are you
Can't say
off
anything more
to
than
next?
I am off to. Can I say?
Yes.
I am off to. Can I say? I don't know. I have to think if I can say it.
Can I say it?
I'm going overseas.
Sri Lanka.
You said it. I didn't say it.
How exciting!
Yeah, and I'm shooting a series that's in its 4th season. They're shooting out there, so I'm in that.
Splendid, Anil. It's been lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Let's mention that YouTube channel because there's lots of stuff on there, clips and impersonations and what have you, and it's easy to find, isn't it?
Yeah, Anil Desai comic. Anil Desai. Yeah, it's just me.
That's what we want to see. There's the building again. Look, is
Yeah.
he's still there in his lovely red outfit.
Got the orange jacket, the hat. These people have stood in front of us there, and now the guys turned up with the pipes. See, the noisemakers, they always know when we're finishing something.
The time has come to draw this to a close. Anil, renewed thanks. And please join me again at the same time next week when my guest will be, if you can still hear me, Dolly Diamond. Yes, a renowned drag queen who's been in Australia for years. But she's back. Have you ever worked with her?
Dolly Diamond? No, I haven't.
Just checking.
Yeah.
She's back. She's lining up gigs and we're going to be talking about those next week. Join me then. Until then, this is David McGillivray and Anil Desai saying, mwah,
Bye.
bye.
Thanks for watching.